Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. Right now, Williams are still pretty bad, let's be real. Sure, George got P11 in qualifying at Portimao, almost got into Q3, although the race pace was terrible. Sure, the car isn't as appalling as it was in 2019. Sure, they're probably quicker than the Haas at the moment. But if you remove Bobby Kubicza's pretty fortuitous, let's be honest, 1 point he got at Hockenheim in 2019, the Williams team haven't scored a proper, firmly on merit pace point since Italy 2018, where Lance Stroll and Sergei Sorokin finished 9th and 10th respectively. But even that year was the first of 3 consecutive final place finishes in the Constructors' title. Williams have been well off it. Thing is though, as we move through 21 into 2022 with a new regulation shake-up, I genuinely believe that Williams could well be fighting maybe at the top of the midfield, maybe even higher. So why do I think things will turn around big time? Look, I've got my reasonings, okay? We will get into them, but before that, a quick word from today's video sponsor. If you're looking to build your own website, whether it be personal blog, online store, portfolio, Squarespace is the platform I've always recommended. Pick from a vast range of beautiful website templates, drag and drop your imagery, optimize the user interface to your heart's content, and 24/7 online support has always got your back if you need it. I've been shouting out Squarespace for time now, as many of you will know. I'm sure when I eventually get around to doing my Tommo F1 branded F1 car livery design, there's going to be a fat off Squarespace logo in there somewhere, for sure. So head to squarespace.com, have a play around with the functionality that is on offer, completely free of charge. It's only when you actually want to put your website live to the world that you have to worry about any kind of financial transaction. And when that time comes and you are ready, use the code TOMMOF1 or click the link in the top line of the description for 10% off your first website or domain. Cheers again to Squarespace for the support, and thank you for supporting the brands who support me. Point number 1, the Realtons cash. As we all know, Claire Williams stepped aside from her role as kind of team principal and part owner of the Williams team in 2020, and eventually Williams did sell up. End of an era, but based on recent results, it was kind of a long time coming. So who came in to take the reins? Well, it was a fairly unknown private investment firm by the name of the Realton. The portfolio that they have currently, controlling shares and part shares in companies, I'm not going to lie, is pretty dry. MEI Rigging and Crafting, Traditions Health, Hennigan Engineering, Post-Acute Analytics. Yes, I'm falling asleep as well. No motorsport brands in there whatsoever. At first glance, seems a bit weird. Thing is though, the moves that they've made for Williams so far have been very promising. In terms of cash, the Realton have injected over 100 million into the team already. Essential funds, given the fact that the lower down you finish, the less money you get. The team was in a bit of a financial black hole. There was a lot of debt. They had to sell off their advanced engineering division to try and get some cash in the business. That's why they needed to sell, because it just wasn't sustainable anymore. That 100 million, beyond clearing debts, I'm sure, I don't know, but I'm sure would have gone more to like infrastructure changes and changing things behind the scenes, because this current base car that they have is terrible. Why waste your money on that when you can invest that money long term, new regulations, get everything sorted out on the back end, build them foundations, make them foundations solid, and then give the team more resource to do well in the future. The Realton have come in, sorted out the financial problems, steadied the ship somewhat, and they've kept the Williams name, which is nice as well, which they didn't have to. Next point is on the personnel, because there's been a lot of changes up top. One of the Realton's first big moves was to bring in Jos Capito as Williams' CEO. Capito is well known for leading WRC success for Volkswagen as their head of motorsport from 2012 to 2016. 4 consecutive titles while he was at it. His biggest F1 stint was at Sauber from 96 to 2001. Capito also had a brief stint at McLaren in 2017, but it appears that too many fragile egos kind of got in the way from him making the changes he really desired at the team, and he ended up leaving only a few months later. Williams, on the other hand, would have been well and truly humbled from the recent terrible performances, let's be honest. There's no room for big egos at that team when you're plumb last. So Capito should have no problem coming into that team, stamping his authority and building it as he sees fit. François-Xavier de Maison and Willy Ramph have also been brought in by Jost, both who he worked with in some capacity during that VW WRC project. De Mason is coming in as technical director, a man who worked on that mad VW IDR, the 6-minute 5-second Nürburgring destroyer that is also electric. And Ramph has plenty of F1 experience, dating back to mainly Sauber, the late 90s, early 2000s. All three have worked together, all three have varying experience in Formula 1, and all three know how to win. They've kept on Simon Roberts as team principal, the man who took over Claire's role when she left. He's stacked with experience. He used to be at McLaren, used to be at Force India as well. And since he kind of took the reins, I feel like the Williams performance has already started to go in a more positive direction. They're not as far off now as they were. I mean, nowhere near as far off as they were in 2019 or even in 2020. Jenson Button has also been drafted in as a senior advisor. Sure, much of that will be more of a kind of ambassadorial media kind of thing, but having a driver with Jenson's experience and knowledge of more current Formula 1 can only be a positive resource to have about, surely. You had Niki Lauda at Mercedes, you've got Alain Prost at the moment at Alpine. It's not unusual. Plenty of other teams have had ex-drivers in the paddock advising. Altogether, I think these personnel changes are a real statement of intent from Williams. These people feel like the right people. We don't know, but all the signs are positive at the minute. So what about their increased relationship with Mercedes? Look, it was always very credible how long the Williams family remained in charge of that team and they retained their independence. Producing everything in-house is very admirable, but sometimes that pride gets in the way of performance and the world kind of ages around you, you know. Williams' performances suffered because of their pride of keeping things in-house. But with the Realton in charge, they seem to be relaxing that. Williams have agreed for an increased technical partnership with Mercedes from 2022 onwards, which I think is a very positive move. They've had their engine supplied by Mercedes since the FW36 back in 2014. They were Renault before that. In 2022 though, the gearbox, the hydraulics will all come from Mercedes. Probably parts of the suspension as well, I can imagine. Because yes, we don't know where any teams are going to be from 2022 onwards, but surely it's a no-brainer that Mercedes are at least going to be up there, you know what I mean? The quality of the parts they'll be getting from Mercedes will undoubtedly be top tier, and that'll allow Williams to offset the resources that would have been working on those parts to other parts of the car. Question is though, and the thing that Williams I think are quite concerned about becoming is a bit of a B team. Because you could argue that that B-team dynamic is already established. The fact that Mercedes could just yoink George out of that Williams seat and plug him into the Mercedes for Sakir, you know. That doesn't happen if there isn't some kind of solid relationship there between the teams. And maybe a bit of a power dynamic. Would a team rather be independent but stay at the bottom, or dependent but move up to the top? That's the question. If this was football, I'd say preserve your independence. But with Formula 1, it's a technical game. I think go for it, Williams. I think they're making the right choice. And then, what about the drivers? The longer we go through this Formula 1 season, we're only 3 races deep at the time of recording, by the way, the more I think that Lewis, whatever happens, probably isn't going anywhere. He has made comments saying that he's keen to stay on beyond 2022. And if he wants to, he's definitely going to have a seat. Come on, surely. I know he's only signed the 1-year deal. I know he's got a lot of things going on outside of Formula 1. But the noises that he's making is that he wants to stay regardless. So if Lewis does stay, what do? Do they get rid of Bottas and bring in George, or just keep Bottas? I'd love to see George and Lewis together in a team for sure, but I don't think Toto would do that. I think Toto would rather, if Lewis is going to stay, keep Valtteri in there. It's a system that ultimately works. They've won every constructors title since them two have been there. They've won every driver's title since those two have been there. Toto's been vocal about how that Lewis-Nico relationship and how it broke down. He inherited those two drivers. If it was his choice, he wouldn't have hired them two and put them together. I think Toto would rather keep Valtteri as a tried and tested second driver who can just consistently deliver enough points and let Lewis just run wild, basically. But then that would leave George at Williams. Now, obviously, right now, where Williams are, you think that's, a massive L because George has clearly got a lot of talent. He proved it at Sakir where he should have won, really. But again, in this potential future, Williams won't be a back marker anymore. They'll be on par with maybe where McLaren are at the minute, which surely is a much more intriguing prospect for George. If Williams can give him that kind of car to drive, then it makes kind of sense, because he's still very young and he started at the bottom and then he's gone to the middle, and then eventually he'll probably get that Mercedes seat at the top. Being adaptable is a hugely important trait as a driver, and some of the best look back on those early years where they were fighting down the bottom as the most important years in their growth. If Williams can give him a midfield fighting car, then I think Toto would convince George to be content staying at Williams, for sure. Toto would be happy with a Mercedes-backed team being up there in the fight, plus he's an ex-Williams man himself, so it all just works. And then as for Nicholas Latifi, I do think he's improving. He's still not at George's level. Of course, I don't think he ever will be, but he is getting there with the car. The race pace in particular isn't as far off as his quali pace. And at the end of the day, he's got his billionaire dad, Michael Latifi, helping bankroll both Williams and his drive. Makes sense. Guaranteed cash injection for Williams, guaranteed sponsorship for his brand Safina, and guaranteed seat for his son. Everybody wins. So that's it. There are my reasons why I believe Williams are onto a good thing going forward. I think you Williams fans out there should be excited for the future. But do you agree with me or not? Am I missing something? Let me know in the comments where you think Williams are going to be in that first 2022 season, the first new regulation season. I know it's anyone's guess, but relative to all the other teams, how much confidence do you have in Williams to be able to turn it around? But anyway, I'm done. Thank you very much for watching. Apologies for all the boxes in the background. We're literally moving tomorrow, so this is the last video you're going to see, unless I don't put them out in order, with this background, with this plain white wall. It's going to be all new from here on in, which I'm very excited about. I'm not looking forward to the moving process, I'll be honest. But yeah, my name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.